Hello, hello, and welcome to my time lapse of the new starting soon screen. I learned a few lessons about how I do my animating process throughout the entirety of this. You can see in the top right, like all the layers and all of the folders, like the animation folders that I had for this. It probably had a few, like anyone who's more experienced will probably be able to look at this and be like, why did you make this so hard for yourself? But it's okay. We're learning. I had a blast. And by a blast, I mean like I was crying every time things didn't look right, but it's okay. Because we got there, and that's the important part. I learned that if I'm gonna outline, I'll probably want to outline on its own layer, because all of these red lines ended up being the bane of my existence later down the line. And I also learned that if you're going to color it on a separate layer. I guess that's if you don't want your line work to be covered up, but it's also, it just makes it easier. Because for the first 2 frames of this, when I first tried to start coloring it, because one thing I noticed I do when I have a really big project, I start getting ahead of myself and I'll start putting detail into one spot, just so I can give myself like a kind of visualization of where I want it to be when it's finished, if that makes sense. But the first couple of frames that I colored, I did it in a really, really like stupid way. At least stupid for what I was trying to accomplish. I don't doubt it probably could have worked out had I had another idea, but I colored on a separate layer and then I merged the layers together, and that was a big mistake. And you'll probably see why in just a minute. So I did figure out eventually, I was like, oh my god, why didn't I do this sooner? All of the line work for the hand is its own animation, and then the line work for the mist turning into the mug is its own. All of the color, like the individual color for each part, those are all also their own animation. Here is where I colored it and then I merged the layers, but then I had to go back again because those red lines wouldn't go away. And I would play the animation, like I would save it as a GIF and then I would play the animation so I can see like how it looks so far, because I do these on a much higher resolution than can be played back in Clip Studio without it turning pixelated. And while I could have turned down the resolution while I was working on it and then turn it back up when I finished it, I would prefer to just keep it as is and then just check it every so often by saving it as a GIF, like exporting it and then continuing on. And let me tell you, I cried. I shed tears when I finished. Because when I was doing the coffee is brewing bit, the coffee is animated perfectly fine. I had no issue with that. But the brewing, for some reason, just like, it was all over the place. It didn't animate right and I couldn't figure out what I did wrong. So I was playing it and I was like, oh my god, it's done. And then the coffee bean is next to me, right? And he's looking at it. He's like, oh yeah, that looks great. You know, you did it. And then I see the brewing bit play. I was like, no. It's not working. I was like, what do you mean? And yeah, it was probably just like a really nitpicky little thing, but I did have to go back and adjust all the letters until they lined up better. And it's still not perfect. And now that I've said it, people will be like, wow, oh my god, you're right. but it, it's better. Trust me, it is so much better than I tried to do it the first time. I'm very, very pleased with how it looks right now, and this is in no way the way I want to leave it, but this is where I feel like I am capable of to this point. So for now, it is complete. I have plans for it in the future, but those plans will very likely take much longer. Like, I wanted to do this whole thing where, like, she pulls the mist together and it's the mug, and then it zooms out from there to closer to what I have for my away screen, where she's like beckoning the craft over so to pour the coffee. The other thing I wanted was to have it done before I did the sketch compilation that I posted not too long ago. And I was like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna finish this in time, because I had 7 minutes of time lapse by that point, and I had barely gotten halfway. And yes, I do know I can condense time lapses into like 60 seconds, but I really wanted to actually showcase the full time lapse for this one. Here, I had to go back and erase a ton of the coloring I did do because the red lines were still there. So, color on a separate layer. That's why it goes so much faster here. Funny enough, I did end up finishing it the day that that sketch compilation posted. So I remember sitting there, I looked at Big Coffee Bean and I was like, you know, the only reason I didn't include it was because it wasn't finished. And yet now here we are, an hour before that video posts, and it's finished. But I'm still much happier setting this as its own, because it's a much longer time lapse, and trying to include this in that sketchbook compilation would have been basically the whole video. I like that that video was only a few minutes long. Like, I like posting updates for my sketchbook, which is new, and I've only done a couple, but I hope to do more of those in the future for anyone that is interested in them. I do know that I had struggled to figure out, and you'll see it, I struggled to figure out what to do, like, towards the end of it, and what to do for a background. So I feel like the background is a little bit of, like, a simplistic thing, but I didn't want to pull eyes away from, like, the focal point of the animation. So I wanted to stay focused on the hand and the mug and the mist. So I left the background kind of bland. But yeah, I'm gonna let it finish playing out, and let me know what you think. I hope that you all are having a very, very wonderful time. And if you are going through something rough, I hope it gets better soon. Please stay safe and take care, and thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time.